hornbill by understanding it looks like a banana. Looking at that bill, the yellow billed looks like a banana. When I first started training, the bird with the banana. It is a beautiful bird with all that white little speckles around it. Have a look at the eye. The eye's quite yellow. Awesome little hornbill sighting that we had there. It's still going. Looks like there's a dove in the background there. They'll be looking for any insects that are coming out. So it's an exciting morning to come out because it was raining yesterday, and that obviously means that the insects are out. So we can also find, with insects come all the birds. That's why it's a very, very good day for looking at all the different bird species that might be coming out. You can hear quite an array of birds going on. Actually seems to be a chase here of two birds. Looks like the fork-tailed drongo is chasing another bird in the sky here. Over here. Jeepers, it's really on that other bird's case. Not sure what that other bird was, but quite fiercely territorial, these fork-tailed drongos. We saw them actually mobbing a Djuma gene the other time. Jamal would like to know, is the hornbill a bird of prey? Jamal, the hornbill is not a bird of prey. It mainly eats on fruits and different types of nuts that it finds out here in the bush. So, no, it's not a bird of prey. We'll see if we can find a bird of prey this morning. But what I'm really interested in seeing is some of the smaller birds, and there's one right here. Here we go. So in this thicket, very difficult to see. It almost looks like, there we go. That's one of the pipits there. Have a look at the colorations of this bird. So this is a new bird to our list. I know it's a pipit. If someone can screenshot that pipit, then we can have a look in the bird book. But while we're here, and it comes back into sight, let's try and pick up on some of the defining features of this brown bird, because these are the hardest ones to identify sometimes out here in the bush. It comes out of the thickets. When we get it, let's take note of it. So there's some stripes by its eye there. It's got a dark eye. So it is most definitely a pipit. I'm going to get my bird book out. Potentially see which one. There's some yellow above the eye there. It has, look at the mandible when we get a next chance. Have a look at the mandible. What color is that mandible? Which is the beak? What is the beak? In the meantime, I'm just going to get my bird book out because this is exciting. What bird is this going to be? I always like a challenge, and these pipits provide a big challenge. There we go, have a look at the beak. So it looks like a little bit of yellow beneath there. A little bit of pinkish beneath. So I'm going to go to pipit. Keep looking at the bird while I get it in the book. Notice some of the features of it. There it is. So just getting the bird book out and looking through the different pipits now. So have a last look there before we bring it back up here. Clearly a definition of yellow above the eye there. Or yellowish white. Okay, so we're at the pipits now. See how hard it is to identify the pipits. I'm just going to get so that you can see them. So my guess is that it was either the top left one or the top right one. So the African pipit, or the plain backed pipit, and there's one other. There we go, this one, the buffy pipit. So from what I saw out there, I definitely saw that little bit of white above the eye. I saw some streaking over there from that pipit, and there was a little bit of yellow kind of pinkish there, so it could very well be the buffy pipit was walking around there, or it could have been the African. You see how hard it is. It's very, very difficult to identify them. I don't remember seeing those reddish legs, so I'm going to go with Buffy the pipit. Alright, so let's go to Jamie for the meanwhile, while we see if we can just close this identification of the Buffy pipit.
We've also been focused on birds, and since you left us and went back across to Sam and James, we've actually been following the alarm calls of Franklin, a very, very distressed Franklin. And we've sort of solved, or at least partially solved, the mystery. Now, quite often when Franklin alarm call for something like a leopard, then it's quite brief, and they tend to forget about it. Sometimes they fly up into the trees like a guinea fowl. But this Franklin was sounding incredibly sorry for himself, and in fact is somewhere still in here. But we have a little bit of an answer to the mystery of what happened to this poor thing. It has gone barreling through a buffalo thorn, which I promise you do not want to do. It does not look comfortable at all. In this case, most likely, it probably saved this poor Franklin's life, because my suspicion would be, although I can't see it now, my suspicion would be that it was being hunted by some kind of bird of prey. Anything from a lizard buzzard right up to an eagle. And this poor Franklin, it's stopped now because we're here, because we're close to it. It's now scared of drawing attention to itself. But I can only it sounded like the poor thing was crying, actually. It was sort of going, just in the patch of bushes here. I'm going to see if I can try and find it for you. I've seen it before once where, I can't remember who was with me. I think it might even have been Kirsty and Lou, where we were sitting at Inger's, and a Franklin came barreling in away from a goshawk and disappeared underneath the deck, sort of sought refuge in the deck, and the goshawk only just managed to turn itself around. Let me try and see if they're hidden in here. I can't see them. Franklin? They might have taken the opportunity to make an escape. But the exact same thing happened where this poor shaken Franklin, hiding under the deck, went on to alarm call for a considerable period of time. Now, I can't begin to describe the noise they were making. It was a shame. It was actually very sweet. I don't want to terrorize the thing any further. I feel as though... Oh, there we go. There we go. We come over here. Oh, no, they're just too frightened. They're in here. I don't know if you can see there, Dave. They're moving about at the back. But they're now going to the opposite side of it, towards the buffalo thorn again. Just a little bit of him. Shame, guys. If you had a very scary morning, let's not make it any scarier for them. Poor thing. They found a good safe spot though. And I'm saying the poor thing, but actually they got relatively lucky. The buffalo thorn that they dove through, I'm going to try and grab you a branch of it now. I don't want to scare them any further though, so I'm sort of looking for a different one to use rather than walking up to them again. Oh, hole! There's a bit of a hole there. I'm not going to fall down. I've had enough indignity over the last few weeks. There you go. Let me just go find a buffalo thorn for you quickly. We'll leave the Franklin be. I don't want to scare them anymore. But this is quite a nice example, and this is a dead branch, so it should be easy enough to break off without impaling myself. The buffalo thorn, also known as a wachabiki tree. because if you walk into it, unless you are barreling at high speed like that Franklin must have been, if you walk into it, you're going to wait a little in order to unhook yourself from these incredibly sharp hooked thorns. Ouch. They are actually very sharp. So a tree of great cultural significance in terms of the value that it has for the local cultures, in terms of actually mourning rituals, death rituals, where in the case that a loved one dies far away from home, the buffalo thorn is actually taken as a way of transporting the soul back to, along with the body, back to where it's going to be buried from where they came from. So local people actually buy a plane ticket or a bus ticket, or well, probably not a plane ticket if I'm being socially and economically fair, it probably will be a bus ticket. And the buffalo thorn will have its own seat as a representative of the deceased person's soul. So the hooked thorn captures the soul, and the straight thorn sends it on its way up to whatever lies after. A very culturally significant tree, particularly culturally significant for that Franklin, as it probably saved its life. Okay, let's pop that back. I don't feel like carrying it around, or find a way to be attached to me somehow. I'm going to go try sneak up on my dwarf mongoose family. Let's head back to Sam with another bird.
So we've now also come across a beautiful lilac-breasted roller in the tree here. We've just seen it eat an insect. So a roller also likes to eat insects, much like the hornbill that I said also likes to eat fruit and some berries. So we found another beautiful looking bird. So we've seen a roller, we've seen a buffy pipit, and we've seen a yellow-billed hornbill. I also managed to see a Cape glossy starling, which would be a new one from my bird list here. Hopefully we'll be able to see something a little bit more. But have a look at this roller over here. You can see it's quite puffed out there. So it's still quite chilly this morning, and they often puff out their feathers like that to insulate themselves and keep warm on these coldish mornings. But it's now sitting in the sun, as you can quite clearly see, taking in those rays of sunlight. These birds are really beautiful birds. Look at them. So many different colors. Purple, yellow, green. Really magnificent looking birds. They've got quite a interesting call as well. Hopefully we'll be able to hear that. It's also fascinating to watch as rollers, they're playing in the sky. So in these lilac-breasted rollers, you'll find two of them fighting or playing against each other up in the sky there, and it's always really cool to see that. Really is a beautiful bird. And just in the distance there, my eyes just picked up some zebra that are walking from Mala Mala into Cheetah Plains. So we were with some zebra this morning, and now we're back with some zebra in the distance there. If you can see what they're eating, they are bulk grazers, so they like to eat the big long grasses out here. So they'll make way for the wildebeest to come behind them to eat the shorter grass. The zebras will be eating and grazing all the way along Cheetah Plains here. We might just see some wildebeest in the distance following up. It doesn't seem to be much plains game out on Cheetah Plains this morning. So James is with an antelope. Let's head across to him. We're going to go see if we can find some tracks of Nkanyeni and potentially the beautiful female herself.
I'm not with an antelope, everybody. I'm with many antelope of different species. There is a kudu female who is looking a little bit panicked. We're going to see what she's panicked about. It might just be that she's watching that one coming across. No, maybe there's something else. And then there's some waterbuck just behind her. Oh, there's a big bull coming. It's all going on here. It's all going on. Big bull kudu. And in the background you can see just a little flash of the white ring around the waterbuck's bottom. There it is. Now don't focus too long on the bottom, Brian. You know what happens when I'm around.
I know.
Hello, Sam. You've basically answered your own question. You say, while the antelopes are in the middle of the rut, while they're rutting with each other, are they more vulnerable? Look at this. This kudu's trying to mate. Sam, they are absolutely more vulnerable. Male impala, oh my goodness, at this time of the year, die in great numbers because they're not concentrating on predators. They're not concentrating on eating. All they can think about is the ladies, and that's why an animal like Karula, she's probably 20 kilograms, so 50 pounds lighter. Sneak slightly forward, Brian, you'll get a better shot of those waterbucks. She's 50 pounds lighter than a male impala. She's managed to kill quite a few of them in the last little while. And I think you'll find that a few more of them will lose their lives to smaller predators as the sort of time goes on. But the rut is going to end probably in about 3 or 4 weeks, maybe even before that. I think we've actually hit the height of the rut, and I think that the impala have completed them, will be completing their mating at the moment. The moon's just popped out again, and we know that impala and the Kruger have their breeding height during the dark phase of the moon in May. Now, the other thing that I'm going to ask Brian to show you is he's going to tilt the camera up. Yes, well done, Brian. Now, what you can see there, everybody, is a front blasting in over the Drakensberg Mountains, and we were told that there would be rain today. When I woke up this morning, I thought, piffle to that. And now, I'm beginning to think maybe I was being a little unkind to the meteorologists who spend their time telling us lies so many hours of every day. They obviously don't mean to tell us lies. They are just, much like with biology, so many variables involved in predicting the weather that it is almost impossible to be accurate at it. Isn't that pretty? Well done, Brian. That's very artistic of you.
Thank you, James.
Yes. And there I am, inescapably not pretty, yes. Thank you, thank you, Brian. All right, we're heading towards Biffleshoek Dam, not too far away from that. There were reports of elephants here. Nobody has seen those lionesses that we saw there yesterday. We'll drive around there. Apparently some kind of consternation on Torchwood with a Birmingham male and one of the females. I don't know if you were with us a little while back, I think probably 4 days ago, when we had the male and the female, and they were threatening to mate, or I thought they were going to mate, and then she would kind of leave him, and then he would kind of be disinterested, and I don't know if it's that pair, but it's a male and a female together, so there seems to be some kind of issue there. And the 3 other Birmingham boys on Torchwood as well. I wonder if that big distended-bellied female with the veins popping out of her back yesterday, I wonder if she didn't give birth. We won't obviously be going stomping around on foot after her. If she has just given birth, that will result in a terrifying experience. I suppose it would be sort of encourage you to examine yourself. Hello, John. We have similar queries to this fairly regularly, and it's basically about cancer. You say, do any of the big cats here get feline leukemia? John, I know nothing about feline leukemia, I'm afraid, so I couldn't tell you if they get it or not. I suspect quite strongly, if I was to guess, I would have said that feline leukemia is probably a disease of domestic cats that may probably sometimes express in a wild cat population, but because a domestic cat and domestic cat breeds, and much the same with domestic dog and domestic dog breeds, because they have very narrow genetics, shallow genetic pool, and they don't often eat the diets to which they've evolved, they often do get cancers. And in much the same way that human beings do. Human beings in the sort of civilized or Western world suffer hugely. There's a little dark evidence we haven't seen it running away. Amazing how peaceful it is when Jigger's engine is not roaring. Robins calling. Green emerald spotted wood doves going. Very pretty. Anyway, so that's not good. Yeah, we're okay. So I think what you find is that in wild populations of cats which eat exactly what they've evolved to eat, they don't mix it up with any other kind of food, they don't have the stresses and strains of an urbanized life, I think you'll find that any kind of cancer, and I would imagine leukemia included, is very, very rare. Now, definitely some elephants were around here fairly recently, not soon. See some tracks. Right, well, while we're looking around for these elephants and seeing what's going on around here and around Buffelshoek Dam, let's pop across to Jamie, see what she and her size 4 shoes have managed to find somewhere on this wonderful wilderness.
Abandoned my quest for the dwarf mongoose for now, partly because during the winter months they are incredibly lazy and they love a good lie-in, and I actually don't think any of them are up just yet. We found something rather interesting to show you, just in the way in which this has been devoured. Now, of course, this would be the work of an elephant who has ripped the branch of this bush willow. And it looked as though once upon a time was a variable bush willow. You can actually see where the elephant has stripped and basically chewed along here. It's not fresh, it's not, if it were fresh, it would still be damp. But it hasn't completely, usually when an elephant puts a branch like this into its mouth, it's stripped away most of the bark, most of that is gone. In this case, it's actually left quite a few pieces. But you can almost imagine the tooth of this massive animal, the teeth of this massive animal at work. And they kind of slide the branch into their mouths, and it works like a conveyor belt. They just move it with their tongue and rotate it and chew around it. And they're looking for this cambium layer. Sorry, I'm just listening to what I thought was an alarm call. It's all quiet. And the cambium layer here, which is this pinkish color, is what they are after. Plenty of nutrients, the xylem and the phloem of the plant. You can almost see the grooves of his teeth. He's not the only one that's been making short work of this particular tree. Because if we have a look here, I don't know if you can see from this angle, Dave, or leaf in face, there's actually evidence of borer beetles. Let me see if I can... No, this bark's very attached. Let's show you this hole. The a minute little hole that is over here. Can you see it there, Dave, or am I being complete? There, you got it. Yep. Awesome, well done, thank you. Dave being a legend this morning. That's actually evidence of a borer beetle of some kind. So she's bored into the bark of the tree and laid her larvae in there, or laid her eggs, which will then be larvae, and they'll have a perfect food source once they come through, or once they start to hatch up and start feeding off the bark. So a wood borer beetle, responsible, once an elephant has ring barked, it makes it even easier for them to enter this kind of wood. So an elephant ring barking a tree immediately puts it at risk of attack by borer beetles. Now that buffalo thorn that we were looking at earlier, it's the favorite food of the African, different species of the African longhorn in terms of borers. And longhorns, of course, have those, actually can have the most incredible mandibles that are capable of piercing bark that thick. Oh, another reason that I've abandoned my quest for the dwarf mongoose is actually that we've found leopard tracks. So we're tracking the female leopard that crossed yesterday evening around Simbambili. We never got to find out who it was. And when I say tracking, what I mean is I saw one track once and now I can't find them again. So it was here, she's come through here somewhere, and it's just a matter of trying to find her. There we go, this elephant's made short work of this place. This he hasn't even really bothered to finish off, but it's a nice example of how the bark gets peeled away from the trees. So James Richards, you was just saying that we've managed to find you some unique tracks. It's a pleasure. I'm glad. I think that you're as interested in tracking as I am. I love the unique and the different tracks. Now I know that we had that question earlier about, he's been here as well. Poor trees, and this is the sort of work that really, this is the sort of stuff that elephants do to the trees that will make it easier for the borer beetles to enter. So Sally, you asked earlier, and I said that I would think about it, what sort of things you might see on a winter bushwalk that would be unique. And I was being very stupid, because one thing that I have seen far more during the winter months than I have during the summer is a lot of nocturnal animal sightings, especially on a coolish, cloudy day like today. They tend not to be as tremendously nocturnal. They're very often wandering about, and things like honey badgers, even porcupines and civets, you occasionally see moving about throughout the day. So that is something that a winter's bushwalk has a far greater chance of providing than a summer one might. I should actually keep my voice down a little bit, because this is a block that is absolutely loved by the leopards out here. And they love a good termite mound venture or vantage point. This incredible old stump. Ooh. This tree is incredibly old. This is probably an old leadwood tree, just looking at how solid the bark is and how little it's been degraded by termites and other such things. Now Errol, you were saying that you think perhaps we should employ ox pickers after our bushwalk to get rid of the ticks and the various things that we might pick up. And the answer is yes, we should. We absolutely should. And myself in particular, Steph and I, seem to be the ones who suffer the most. You hungry, Dad? Are you scared I'm going to give you another leaf like the silver cluster leaf yesterday? Shame. Poor Dave. It wasn't very nice of me. I didn't warn him, and I made him eat a silver cluster leaf. A white berry bush. And the fruit is absolutely delicious. Delicious, a bit of a stretch. It's not really a culinary delight, but it is certainly useful. Try to find a nice ripe one. The whiter they are, the riper they are. I can't find a nice ripe one. Shouldn't really eat the seeds. The seeds make you feel a bit funny. Or certain people feel a bit funny if they eat the seeds, but you can sort of eat the fruit away from them. That's quite a nice one. Instrument for stopping and having a look at some of the smaller life out here. I'll move up for you, Dave. Right. A beautiful shimmer to it. Incandescence like a starling might have. Beautiful. And we're going to keep searching for more unusual tracks for James Richards and other wonderful fingers out here on foot. While we do that, it appears as though Sam's got a different track for you.
So we've just found some cheetah tracks on cheetah plains. As you can see there, quite clearly the track looks quite big. You can see the claw marks that are in the front of it, and it's not very different to that of a leopard, or well, mainly a leopard. A lion would be much bigger than this, but I'm going to show you on the track book what it might look like over here. I'm going to hold it nice and still for you. What you just saw is the third one from the top, the cheetah. You would have seen the 3 lobes at the bottom that are quite even compared to that of the leopard, and you'll see that there are claw marks at the top of the spur, and it's a lot more narrow than that of the leopard. So we've just found some tracks of the cheetah, and we may very well just come across one. So I thought I'd show you the tracks, because yesterday we spent some time with a lion track and a leopard track, and now we're with a cheetah track, which will close the circle on some of the big cats that we get out here. Just need to find a little bit of connection so I may get your wonderful questions. Otherwise, let's go and find this cheetah. So James is with an elephant. Let's go and see how he's doing. Hopefully when you come back we might just have a cheetah.
This is a musk bull elephant, everyone. He's not the same one we saw yesterday. All the bulls seem to be in must. He's come towards us. We're at Buffelshoek Dam. I'm speaking very fast. I don't know why that's happening. Let me take a breath. But he is coming quite close, and so let's just watch his behavior. He's not reacting in any kind of aggressive way at all. So let's just sit here quietly. He's very close now. Got little wet booties on the front feet, so he's been in the water. That looks ridiculous. And the smell, that urine dripping from him. Oh.
I think he heard you.
It's like he heard me, yeah. I don't want to move, everyone. I think he's smelling the fairly fresh dung. You know what he's doing? You can see his trunk there. Smelling. There's a herd of elephants has just come through here, and I think what you find is that one of those females would have urinated there perhaps, and might be in estrus, and that's what he's testing by smelling the bush. He's also quite interested in us. He's smelling the dung. Ugh. I mean, well, this is a bit... If he comes any closer, everyone, I'm going to probably start the engine. If you zoom in down on his undercarriage there, you can see it's foamy and green, and that's why it's called green penis syndrome, everyone. And he's just putting some dirt on him. I'm sure he likes the feeling of it on his skin. I think that's why they do this. It will help to get rid of parasites to some extent as well. That pushing the trunk over the tusks is indicative of must, and it's kind of a bit of a cheeky swagger. Let's just see what he does. Look at him smelling the ground there. A prehensile tip to his trunk, just picking up almost individual pieces of sand. I mean, not quite, but it is amazing. It's only about the width of my hand. In fact, it's narrower than the width of my hand, I think. You can see the pointed little finger on it. And yet, he stands at least 10 or 11 feet at the shoulder. He's not quite as big as that huge one Brian and I saw the other day. He's decided that he's not that interested in us. That was awesome. That was a short, sharp elephant sighting, everyone. I'm not going to follow him down the road there. Just simply because he, I don't know, he showed us showed himself to us. He was particularly confiding, and I didn't want to bug him. Don't you feel the same, Brian?
Oh, nice sighting.
That was absolutely amazing. Let's go a little bit forward here. I came to Wild'earth Dam hoping to maybe find those lions that we had here yesterday and see if the pregnant one isn't around. See if she hasn't come down for a drink, maybe. I haven't spotted anything here, and Andrew was here earlier. He says there were tracks of buffalo. In fact, there are. I can see the tracks of the buffalo all over the place here. I am just going to, Brian, if we go a little bit forward, we can probably get quite a nice view. That's where the lions were yesterday of this elephant. He's now found himself a real pile of dust. We'll just go a little bit forward. There's a nice road to take, so we don't have to go off-road to go have a look at him. Just looking down amongst the bushes there, keeping an eye on our elephant friend. What I don't want is for him to feel like we're sort of driving up his bottom, so we'll turn off here and we'll have a look at him through the bushes. There we go. Isn't that fantastic? And Yvonne, like you say, you're in Sweden and you say it's amazing how elegant he is, the way he lifts that dust and flicks it onto himself. I agree. Now you see how he's got his trunk over his tusk there. That is a classic behavior of a must-bull elephant, and it's indicating that he's feeling slightly frustrated, I think, and that's just because his testosterone levels are through the roof. And if he'd walked towards us the first time, as you cut to us, if he'd had his trunk hung over his tusks like that, I probably wouldn't have sat there quite as calmly as I did. Massive. We'll leave him going off down the road there. You can hardly hear him moving. 6 tons of elephant bull walking almost completely silently down the road. Marvelous. Good morning, Mike. How are you? Good. It's Mike from the Cheetah planes. You just get out of his way. Enjoy. Now, I was watching that elephant and we were talking about him, and then I looked up and the guests on the back of his car, they weren't interested in the 6-ton elephant that was walking down the road. They were all just staring at this little vehicle with a big camera on the back of it and wondering what on earth was going on. It is so funny how that happens. This vehicle attracts everyone's attention. Errol, this is going to vary per person. You say, what's the best thing to take with you on safari? Well, we've just seen those chaps there on that car, and I guarantee you the thing that they are most regretting not bringing with them at this time of the year is a good thick jacket. So that's, if you're coming in winter, a good thick jacket is something very good to bring on safari. But I always say there is one crucial thing that will increase your enjoyment of a safari 100-fold, and that is a decent pair of these. If you've got a pair of binoculars, you need to bring them on safari with you. So many times I've been on, guiding people, and I've had a pair of binoculars and I've had to pass it around the vehicle, and now everybody's sharing these things and no one can see properly and they're all fighting over it, and eventually they drop the binoculars. So you always make sure you have a fairly cheap, nasty pair if you're a guide. But because nobody thinks to bring them, and nobody tells people coming on safari that that's what they must bring. So if you're coming on safari, a pair of binoculars to see the birds. Because, if we stop and I say there's a blue waxbill, if you don't have a pair of binoculars on you, it's almost pointless. And it's half the reason that this sort of camera safari, if you like, is so successful, is that you can zoom in on things in the same way that you could with binoculars. But your naked eye out here is wonderful for the big stuff. But if you're looking at birds or insects or flowers or things like that, a pair of binoculars is absolutely essential. So that's what I would say. And a warm jacket in winter. It's not warming up very much today, and I think that's on account of this front that's rolling in. Now if Mike's come down here, I don't think he's found any lion tracks. Before I get stabbed in the eye by Jigger's aerial, let's go across to Jamie and see what she's got on foot.
Oh, I certainly know all about being stabbed in the eye, so I hope that James manages to avoid it. Somewhere here... impalas. Sorry, distraction. If we look through here, we might even get to see those impala rutting. They might come running back towards us. Oh, fine or not. And we're coming this way, I promise. There's a tube. Here we go. You can hear them. I'm not sure if you can hear them grunting away at each other, but they're in full rut at the moment. So while we're sitting here, we could well see a male come sprinting out. They're chasing each other around just behind those guarri bushes, and some poor female by the looks of things as well. Well, the reason why I'm actually crouched down had nothing to do with the impala and everything to do with the most incredible grasshopper that I found, and I've lost him now. He disappeared. It was this beautiful, perfectly camouflaged, perfectly dirt coloured, except for the inside of his legs. The inside of his legs, when folded up, you couldn't see it, but when he jumped, it was this incredibly vivid, vibrant crimson colour. It's called flash coloration, and it's actually a defence mechanism, but I still can't find him, I'm sorry. That's quite disappointing. Let's see if these impala might come towards us as well. We'll look at other things while we do, but basically flash coloration is a flash of colour that draws a predator's eyes and then disappears again. So frogs do it as well. They also have red on a lot of frog species have red on the inside of their legs. Sorry, just something pretty. Part of what looks like it was probably a blue pansy wing. Maybe a blue or yellow pansy maybe. Also a type of defence, having spots on the wings that look like eyes. Owls do it, lots of different animals. Let's see if we can't sneak up on those. Impala. Maybe they'll come towards us. Here's another lovely spider web. Let's collect the dew in the morning. Oh, I nearly bashed my head on Dave's antenna there. It's collected lots of dew. It's actually soaking wet. You can see where it's collected. This morning is very pretty. Lots of fun things to look at. While we try and sneak up closer to the impala, Sam's snuck up on another small creature, a dung beetle wandering across the road.
Have a look at the beetle that is currently crossing the road here. Beautiful stripes on the back. If you know the name of this beetle, please hashtag Safari Live. We've just seen it in the dung, but you get a number of different types of dung beetles. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful beetle. There he goes off into the thickets. So we're busy been tracking a cheetah when we came across this really, really beautiful beetle. Look how it can climb. And it's got those little feelers at the front of it, which will help it navigate through the bush. Such a different sensory perception of the world a beetle has to the many different creatures out here. It's got quite a hill to climb now. There it goes. Very, very strong beetles. I actually found one of these quite close to camp the other day, and I held one in my hand and it was able to just really grab itself on my hand and pulled itself up my arm. It just felt very, very strong compared to most of the other beetles I've held. Look at him go. So we've seen some cool creatures this morning. Saw that really, really big garden orb spider. And we also looked at some hornbills and a roller that were flying around. And it's probably why we've seen so many birds this morning, because they also like to eat insects. So this beetle has to be careful of all the different birds that might be around. Mike is interested to know why this beetle is not in hibernation yet. Well, this dung beetle. Well, Micah, it's the end of the rainy season, and you'll still find a couple of the dung beetles will still be out, especially in these late summer rains. So you'll still be able to find some of them. As soon as it really starts to dry up, those beetles will become less and less. But I'm quite glad to be able to still see some of them crawling around, because I know it's going to be quite a few months before we get to see some of the magnificent looking dung beetles that come with the summer rains. So we're still tracking a cheetah, but we got distracted by a beautiful looking beetle. We're now on the cut line between the Kruger National Park and Cheetah Plains. So I haven't driven this road before, but it is very, very close to where we found Nkanyeni just a few weeks ago, probably about 2 weeks ago. We've just also, while we're looking for a track, or tracking this cheetah that is somewhere in the area, we're also looking to see if we can find any tracks of the young cubs of Nkanyeni and Nkanyeni herself. We're going to head in this direction because we can't go any further down there. We have a very tall creature now, from a dung beetle to a tall creature. Let's go and see what it is.
We do indeed have a very tall creature, and it is most definitely not me. A male giraffe that has spotted us and is keeping a very close eye on us through the trees. I think what we're going to do is we're going to try and get a little bit closer to him without disturbing him too much. He knows we're here, obviously. He's seen us very clearly. And the wind's not really in our favour. It doesn't seem too bad. It's actually fine. I'm just feeling a breeze brush past us, and we're downwind of him almost completely. Now, the thing about approaching an animal like this, especially when they have seen you, is first of all, you don't want to interfere with them. We're currently standing in what's known as his alert zone, essentially. So he's aware of us. He's just not entirely sure, hasn't made up his mind exactly what it is he wants to do. So Dave, we're going to creep forward a little bit. Let's see if we can't. I don't want to walk in a complete straight line at him, because then it looks like we are deliberately approaching, which is of course what we're doing, but we don't want him to think that. and trick him into thinking that we're walking past and that he has safely hidden himself away from us. So giraffe's defense mechanism, they're pretty big. There's not much out there that really is going to set out to catch them. But a giraffe's defense mechanism will be to stand and to stare at something you definitely don't want to go through their day. He's still looking at us. Hello, boy. Oopsie. Very subtle approach. Oh, sorry, Dave. There's a tree there. You see, still keeping an eye on us. Just even from this distance, you can see quite clearly that it is a male. Those thick ossicones and that dark colour. Oh yes, have a good shake. He's relatively comfortable with us. Still watching. Not too worried just yet. I'm just looking at the darkness of the colour. Of course, different individual giraffes, and just like us with different hair colours, they sometimes have darker spots or lighter spots. But as a general rule, giraffe, particularly male giraffe, is darker with age. Dave, you maybe think something was creeping up on me. Let's go a bit closer. A little bit closer. Fortunately, we've got a big gap of openness between us. There's no trees and there's no bushes. I think he is going to start to get a little bit nervous as we go closer. It's nice to have that barrier between you and the animal, just because it actually makes them feel more comfortable as well. Let's go around this way. Hello, boy. And as I said, there's absolutely no purpose to us trying to sneak up on him. He knows we're here. Lynn, you said Scott must have taken the windsock with him. Here we go. We've got a perfect view of him here. Don't worry, I've got the wind nice. I've never had a windsock somehow. There he goes. Immediately, as soon as we focused, what's got these go-away bird socks in? Quacking at each other. Quack. So Lynn, when all else fails and you don't have a windsock, because Scott didn't actually take it with him. I found Scott's windsock at the carcass of the buffalo just to the north of Vuyatela Dam. But when all else fails, it's a bit damp. It's not really going to work. The soil's still a bit damp and this was a bit coarse. But a handful of fine dust will also do the job for you. Still Impala calling. He hasn't gone too far away. Still there. All he wanted to do was put an obstacle between us and him. And now he's keeping a close eye on him. We'll leave him. I don't want to go any closer, really. Oh, sorry. Hello, Dave. Dave peeking over my shoulder. I don't want to go any closer and I don't want to bother him anymore. So while we move off, go off in search of this lady leopard that's been avoiding us, let's jump back on the vehicle with James.
I'm just talking to a robin, everybody, excuse me. Yes, I know. Absolutely. Of course. Yes, okay, good. White-browed scrub robin, I think. I can't actually see the fellow, but what we're looking at is a fig tree. And I've seen one or two of these common strangler figs on Cheetah Plains where Samuel is busy driving around now, finding things. And very uncommonly here on Djuma. And what this common strangler fig is doing is living on a tree that it can no longer strangle because it's dead, and that's a leadwood tree. And they are common hosts of the strangler fig. So the fig would have been probably put there by a baboon or a monkey, or perhaps the seed inside the fig would have passed through the gut of a bird, or just like a green pigeon or a barbet, and it would have lodged in a specific part of that tree where there was perhaps a little bit of water, a bit of opening up to the heartwood so that the seed could establish, and slowly over many, many, many years, I suspect this fig tree is probably at least 3 or 4 decades old, slowly it has grown in and around the old leadwood that has been sitting here probably for the last, I don't know, 300 or 400 years. And what's interesting about that is that if you've ever seen a fig tree and the number of figs that a fig tree produces, or the number of berries that any, sort of berrying plant produces, or any fruiting plant, the number of those seeds that actually ever makes it to fruition as an adult breeding tree is minuscule, less than 1%. So that the amazing set of coincidences that brought about the existence of this fig tree here are probably, the chances of this fig tree establishing when it was a little fruit were probably less than 1 in a million. It's absolutely incredible, I think. Just about all of the figs will be eaten by various things, and this very clever, very lucky plant managed to find a little hole in the leadwood tree, establish itself, and grow into this magnificent example of the common strangler fig, Ficus stillmanii. And that is all I have to say about that, Brian. Good. On we go. We drove around Bivelshoek Dam, checked out the 2 roads that lead in and out, the tracks of those lines, but there have been plenty of buffalo around there, so the buffalo may well have obliterated any tracks that there were. Lots of fresh elephant and buffalo tracks around the place, of herds. But I'm heading towards where there were reports of a very big herd of buffalo earlier on today. Reputations that they have. And Brian Thompson, you want to know if all guides are first aiders? Yes, in order to get a guiding license in South Africa, you've got to have a level 1 first aid course, which and that certainly doesn't qualify you as a doctor by any stretch of the imagination. So if you have a level 1 first aid, you can administer CPR, you can deal with a snake bite, and you know how to stabilize somebody if they are in serious trouble. But you are by no means a doctor, but yes, we all have to be first aid trained. In other countries, say in Botswana for example, you can do much more advanced first aid and be able to treat patients with drips and that sort of thing, which is important if you live in a place like Botswana, which is a long way away. Like if you work in the Okavango Delta, you are many, many hundreds of kilometers from any kind of medical care, and there are no roads to drive you in and out. You've got to bring planes in and out. So there you will find that guides are probably slightly more qualified than South African guides, because the support is much more close at hand here. And also here we've got laws that much more closely resemble, I suppose, laws in the Western world, if you like, where you're basically not allowed to touch anybody unless they ask you to. You could not even allow to administer them an aspirin without the sort of approval of a doctor. So yeah, we're all first aid trained, and there are emergency procedures in place to make sure that if there is ever an emergency, the right course of action is taken. Right, these buffalo should be not too far up ahead. Keep an eye on the Djuma Dam cam. They may be heading that way for a drink. Oh, and the clouds is closing in, Brian. I think it's going to be a fairly glum afternoon. While we're looking for the buffalo, Samuel has found himself No, I'll tell you this afterwards. Go across to Sam, see what he's got, and I'll tell you about it afterwards.
So we found some more hornbill, and it's a couple of them. There's 1, 2, there's another 2 in the background. And they're jumping around this old termite mound, what it seems, and they're collecting some food, which is quite cool to watch. And what's also quite nice about being here is that myself and Jean have been driving in this area for about 5-10 minutes while we were tracking the cheetah, and it seemed like the cheetah has head off towards the Kruger. But we've also noticed a buck that we've never seen before, and it was very, very confusing, because at first I looked at it and I was like, I don't know what you are, but I think I know what you are. I feel like I should know what you are because I've seen most of the antelope here. And it was really, really strange, because John Ray didn't really get a good look at it, and he kept saying to me that it's a steenbok, and I was so sure that it wasn't a steenbok because it was about 5 times the size. So we're just sitting here with these hornbills where we last saw that buck, and we think it's a reed buck from looking in the mammal book. Hopefully that reed buck will come back out of the bushes and show itself, and also present maybe for the first time to many of you to see a reed buck. So what we'll do is we'll just start our engines and drive a little bit in this southerly direction to see maybe if we can pick up on that reed buck again, because it was incredible to see.
That hornbill got a nice kill.
As the hornbill got a nice kill. John has just noticed.
He went behind that bush.
What has it got in its mouth there?
No, I think he ate it already.
Sorry. So Jean noticed the hornbill just ate something, or had something in its beak and ate it just as we got closer there. So that was a little bit unlucky. It's interesting to see so many hornbills all in one space together. But let's go on a quick little track and adventure for this phantom reed buck, because I've never seen this antelope before in my life, and it really was quite a sighting. So we were just looking in that direction there. That's the last time we saw it. Potentially it will show itself again. Just going to drive very, very slowly. Hopefully we can get a sighting of it again. Very, very thick in here. This is where we lost the male lion just the other day. So let's have a look at the picture of that reed buck. But the mammal, oh, there it is. So you've already shown it. Oh, okay. So that's not a reed buck, that's a grey rebhawk. This is the animal that I think that we saw. Yeah, the southern reed buck, which is over here, which looks like a steenbok, but it's quite a lot bigger. So it was playing with my mind. I'd just never ever seen this buck before, and it was a very, very interesting experience. So we're going to see if we can find it again. Hopefully we can. And then we'll bring a whole new mammal to your mammals. And just to show you quickly why we're in this position, the bird is come down to a buffy pipit and a grey heron. So we are number 44 on my bird list. We saw that grey heron when we were tracking those buffaloes that were getting, well, they had seen that lion yesterday, the Nkuhumas at Buffelshoek Dam. So that is the bird list, and potentially we can have another mammal to our list. If we look closely to see if we can find this reed buck. While we search for the reed buck, let's go and see how Jamie's doing in Djuma.
I just stopped for a moment. I don't know what I saw, but I saw something. And Dave, you also saw something. I heard something too. There's something moving about behind that tree, and I can't decide if it's a steenbok or something. Oh, there it went. I just saw it run away. And it was, I think, a steenbok. It had dashed away off towards the right there. Nope, gone. I think it was a steenbok. It was something small and brown and sort of that close to the ground. Probably exactly what it was. I'm trying to see if I could get another view of it, but I don't think we're going to have much luck in that respect. Wouldn't it have been interesting if it had been a caracal or a serval or something wonderful like that? Always important to have your ears working as hard as possible to listen to the stuff that's happening in the bush around you, particularly in this particular block. The leopards absolutely love it. Now a leopard, if she or he thinks that you haven't seen them, they'll actually let you walk right past them, and they'll stay completely still and hidden. There's a hole there, Dave. very, very well handled though. Shame, poor Dave's got to walk and navigate this whole area whilst at the same time trying to keep a camera steady so that you don't all get motion sick. So we could have a leopard watching us from 30 meters away. We would have absolutely no idea. This isn't an easy block. I'm going to try and see if I can catch up with whatever it was that went dashing through the bushes. While I do, James has managed to accomplish what I have not this morning, and he's found some dwarf mongoose.
This huge troop of mongoose is coming closer and closer to us as we try and sort of attract them with their noises. Brian, show us the noise. And they're just totally relaxed around us. We're sitting at about, I don't know, from the closest ones, probably about 4 feet, just over a meter. Now, those ones are just about 4 feet from the front of the car, the ones that you can see. And the rest of them are just foraging about in their termite mound. I suspect that's a temporary refuge within their territory. I think you'll probably find that they've got a sort of more permanent refuge, but they all ran for this as we arrived, and now they've all come out again. How many can you see? Well, you can only see 2 at the moment, but you can see a bit more than that. But I can see 1, 2, 3, 4. There are at least 20 of them here. And they're making little sounds which you can't hear. Them. But very softly. And slowly, as they get more relaxed with us, they come out and they'll carry on their foraging. Basically, they'll eat anything that they can overpower. Look, one's climbing a tree. 2 of them. They didn't like to be seen in the tree, Brian. As soon as they felt the camera on them, they jumped off.
You can hear the little cheats.
Can you hear them?
Yeah.
And the sounds of the mid-morning now sort of fill the air. And instead of the chin spot batters, which is the common one, now we've got the orange-breasted bush shrike. You can hear that behind us. Just wonderful. And they're all so peaceful. These are the mongooses. They also eat eggs, of course. And what they do with the bird's egg, which has a hard shell, many of the reptile eggs have got soft shells, and so they probably just get swallowed whole. But what they do with their hard eggs, like a bird's egg, would be to find a stone. They'll stand in front of the stone, open up their back legs, and then fling the egg through their back legs onto the stone, crack it, and that's how they get into the rich yolk and albumin. Now, I was just talking earlier about the need for binoculars. Here you are having an incredible view. I mean, I've got a kind of a wider view. But as soon as I train my binoculars on them, Kirsten's binoculars on them, I pick up the different colours. Their fur is not a uniform brown. They've got sort of copper copper highlights, if you like. They've got little pink noses. You can see which ones have got scars on them. You can see how delicate their feet are. So really, if you ever come out here, and I think it was Diana this morning, you said you were going to be here on Thursday, please make sure you bring with you a good pair of binoculars. It will be so worth it. Anna-Marie, you say you wonder if their fur is as soft as it looks. I'm trying to think if I've ever held a mongoose. I haven't. Their fur is quite soft, though. I know people who have had a mongoose as a pet, a rescued youngster, and they do have soft fur. A friend of mine had a number of squirrels that she rescued when we were living up at a place called Ngala, which is not too far north of here, and lots of mapani trees there, so the squirrels used to sort of become orphaned quite regularly, and that thing's fur was incredibly soft. He unfortunately was eaten by a goshawk. Quickly, let's go across to Jamie. She's got something that one day will be very beautiful.
Now, this is hands down and unequivocally my favourite caterpillar to see. It is a dice moth caterpillar. And isn't it just one of the most extraordinarily beautiful things you have ever seen? And those funny little feeler things, I still have no idea what they are for. Probably an intimidation factor to it. Those feelers sticking out. I'm going to pull the grass down that he's on just to show you how incredibly beautiful he is. So I also think that they all serve a little bit of an extrasensory perception, these little feelers. Not disturbing too much. And the dice moth caterpillar, named because the adult moth, so the moth that this guy will turn into, has markings like a pair of a die. That's the typical stance of a dice moth caterpillar. You usually see them curled like that. Try and turn him. Yeah, that's lovely. Isn't he gorgeous? Trying to escape and let this branch go. Feeding off, it's difficult to tell you exactly what this is. It's one of the perennial plants, but it's without leaves or flowers. It's almost impossible to see. It has actually been feeding upon it. Our beard, you were wondering about how big this caterpillar is. So what I'll do is I'll provide a scale with my hand. It's actually quite a large caterpillar. Sorry, dude. We're going back down again so that we can compare scale. Does it show nicely there? There you go, our beard. Gives you a rough idea of just how large this caterpillar is. Quite a big one. That little oriole whistling at the back. Oh, shame, I'm getting a little bit scared. Oopsie, sorry buddy. We'll let him be. But that gives you a nice sort of sense of scale. See how those funny little protrusions around him are moving backwards and forwards. It's fascinating. Like they're actually called clubs, I think. Look how the top two are flapping about. I think he's trying to intimidate us, scare us away. I'm pretty scared. How do you feel, Dave?
I'm alright.
Pretty. You're okay. Alright, fair enough. Dave, much braver than I am when confronted by a dice moth caterpillar. I haven't seen that many this year, so it's really lovely to see. And while I've been crouched here, there is a very interesting scent wafting up. towards my nostrils, and that is the scent of a civet tree, and a freshly used civet tree. It's not a terrible smell, it's not a horrible smell, it's just a sort of a, I don't know how to describe it. It smells like old berries, and that of course is what the civet has been feeding on. The civet tree is full of guari berries, and a couple of exoskeletons, some millipedes, and some rings here by the looks of things. I don't really want to stick my hand in the civet. Ooh. Got some rings here. Some poor hapless creature that fell victim to the jaws of the civet. And lots and lots of guari berries, which of course are very, very ripe at the moment. So as always, the bushwalk providing us with all kinds of wonderful magical things to explore. Even if we didn't manage to find our leopard, I have to be honest, I think that I saw a serval. Ooh, it's a log there, Dave, careful. I think that I saw a serval running away from us. It was small and it was cat-like, and I said steenbok, but that wasn't really true. I think it might have been a cat, and I found paw prints as well. But nevertheless, it's time for us to start walking home. So thank you, Dave, for all of your fantastic camera work, and thank you to you all for joining us on this morning's sunrise bushwalk. And thank you to Steph, wherever he's gone, for acting as our security detail. Have a wonderful day wherever you are, and I'm going to send you back over to Sam for the last few moments of the sunrise.
So we are still on Cheetah Plains, myself and John Doe, and basically I just want to clear something up. John Doe thought it was like a really big steenbok that we saw. We weren't sure what the antelope was, but hopefully we can get a picture of it for you to show you what it was. We weren't looking for it. We weren't looking for that antelope afterwards, but we weren't able to find it again. But we've managed to put a clip together, and let's have a quick look at what we managed to see in the bush there and see if you might be able to identify what buck that was. So that is the antelope that we saw this morning, and it really was boggling our minds because I wasn't used to seeing an antelope that looked like that, and I was trying to picture it as the antelope that I know, and so we had to search through the book, and we found reedbuck, and that's what we think it is, the southern reedbuck, but it could very well be something else. We will have a proper look when we get back to camp today. But isn't that exciting, to go out to Cheetah Plains and come across a whole new species of antelope out in the bush? Very cool sighting that we've had this morning. I really like coming to the plains because it just brings out a whole new element to the drive. I'm very lucky to have been with the Nkuhumas down by Buffelshoek last night, which was very interesting behavior that we had up there to see how those lionesses were doing, and we saw the one was looking fairly pregnant at Buffelshoek Dam. I wonder how she's doing today, and if the whole pride is there. I haven't had any information or heard anything on the pride this morning. James was with Karula and moving around, so he didn't go up to the watering hole, but potentially we'll go back up this afternoon to see what we might have found down by the watering hole. Maybe they killed something. Margaret and James Richard both say that that was a reedbuck. Fantastic. Oh, there's a giraffe here. Let's have a look at the giraffe. There it goes. I'm just going to try and get fast a little bit. Sorry, it just keeps running away out of visual. Can you see it there, John?
No.
It literally kept going out of camera focus. There's two there. So just as we're leaving Cheetah Plains, we come across two giraffes. Beautiful. Look at that. Look at that neck. So that's a nice way to finish off your morning in Cheetah Plains. So we saw a southern reedbuck. How cool is that? Well done, James, and all else that saw that it was a southern reedbuck. We will be spending the next few minutes getting out of here and see what we might be able to find. But we'll be back out for the afternoon drive. Thank you, Dre, behind camera, for helping me out and having a great time. Thank you, Kirsty, and all behind in FC. We'll see you just now. Enjoy the rest of the drive, and let's go to Jamie on Bushwalk.
There are some nyalas, everybody. A really, really pretty little scene of chestnut-coloured nyala cows and their charcoal overlord, I suppose you might want to call him. Everything is at peace. The sun has come back out. The buffalo have gone appropriately onto Biffle's Hook, which of course means Buffalo Corner. So I'm afraid we'd missed them. I think they came down onto Vuyatela, which is Djuma, and then turned on and went back again, perhaps to have a drink at one of the watering holes there. Listen to all the doves singing. Rich blue autumn sky. It is the most wonderful time of year, this. And then off to the left-hand side of the sort of main body of this herd, there's a young teenage nyala bull. And he's just knocking about, thinking about having a drink at the little water hole here, perhaps a nibble on some leaves. Staying away from the big male. Oh, no, coming a bit closer now. The wind is blowing slightly out of the northwest, which is unusual. And there's just a really nice kind of fresh smell. The dust has settled with the dew, and so there's a very clean, crisp, cool smell coming out of the northwest, which is very pleasant indeed. What would you say it smells of, Brian? I suppose it's lightly scented with vegetation, I guess you could say. I suppose it is also lightly tinted with buffalo dung. Yes, which is not an unpleasant smell.
No.
I'm just going to sit here. You know, we've only got about a minute and a half left. I'm not going to move until we leave. Because often being still in the wild is the best way to find animals. Oh, and there are a whole lot more nyalas that have just come up. Look at that. Another huge herd. They don't look like they have a care in the world. Which I suppose at this stage they don't. Were there to be a leopard lurking in the bushes nearby, well, then that situation would change profoundly. I've just spotted a buffalo, but he's behind the bush. All right. That's going to be it from us, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I've had a marvellous morning with the Queen. We're going to go back there some stage today and just check if she doesn't have the youngsters there. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Jay.
Big thank you to Sam and Dave on the other vehicle, and Kirsten McClellan-Smith in the final control, Jamie on the bushwalk with Steph, and he was being filmed, I think, by Dave. I don't know who's working today. We'll see you this afternoon at 4 o'clock. Stay safe. Bye-bye.